was funny actually, because one of the ladies at the table, she goes, I used to be one of your groupies in the 70s. And he got up and he left. And I'm like looking at her like, you scared away Jimmy Page. What the hell? You should have just shut up. Stephen Huss is a front of house and monitor engineer, a production manager, tour manager. He's worked for such bands as Anthrax, Jewel, Usher, Government Mule, Living Color, Michelle Branch, Better Than Ezra, RATT, Warren Haynes, and the Fabolous Thunderbirds. Dennis McGivern is a musician and a tech who's worked for System of a Down, Nerd, Pharrell Williams, Living Color, The Damned, Pennywise, The Plain White Tees, Demi Lovato, the Kottonmouth Kings, which I make a big deal of because I'll bring that up in a moment. Smashmouth, Cypress Hill, Tears for Fears, and Sugar Ray. I spoke to Doug Carrion and I asked about you today, and he told me to say that he likes wearing flip-flops, repping the South Bay surf culture, man. I make a little note.
Yes, I do.
My last guest is the boss here. We got Corey Glover, who's the great singer of the band Living Color. And you might have remembered him if you're a big Platoon fan, which we talked about before you got on, because Steven here didn't know you were in the movie, and I guess you guys were watching it on the bus, and they're like, dude, that's him.
Yeah.
We're sitting there on the bus, and we're watching the movie, and Vernon goes, "There's Corey." I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Very versatile is what we're getting at here. So to open things up here, why don't we first give Dennis a hard time because he's the flip-flops guy.
Yeah.
But, how did you get the gig working for Pennywise? Because I really do love Pennywise. And actually, I did get a few minutes to look a few things on you, Corey. And you loved punk music too. I hope I should say still love punk with the hope. But
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was, when I was, 17, 18 years old, I went to my first hardcore matinee at CBGB's and saw Bad Brains, and my mind was blown. I was sitting at the back and was like, this is the most compelling thing I've ever seen in my life. And this shit needs to, how do I get in the middle of all that? And I did for a long time. And it was my intro. And then I got introduced to the Circle Jerks, and then television and a bunch of that new wave stuff and a bunch of that hardcore stuff. That just was like my life for a good 5 years. And then, and at the same time I was being an actor. And then at some point, I got the Living Color gig, and I tried to, it's like, oh, I can do the stuff that I was watching before. And sometimes we did, and most of the times we didn't.
Yeah.
Because when I did, I got in trouble and I hit people.
So with Living Color, I read you sang Happy Birthday, you got into the band, and I've heard you say it in a few interviews, so I won't make you repeat it because you've said it a few times. But I would like to know, do you still send her Christmas cards?
I haven't spoken to her. I don't know where this woman is. I don't know what's going on with her.
Isn't it funny, though? These random events can totally change your entire life, What if you didn't go to that birthday party for this person?
Right. And it was weird. It was just weird. It's just a weird sort of influence of people, because it turned out that Vernon lived not 5 blocks away from me. But we
had 6 in the other interview, Corey. Which one is it?
I'm not counting, but he didn't live too far away from me.
Yeah.
And practically down the block. And, we had to go into Manhattan to this party on the Upper West Side to find each other. And, the other little stories like that, we our paths had crossed because we basically lived in the same neighborhood, but we didn't know about each other. We knew of each other. We heard stories about each other. There's a story that Vernon told a story one time about him running into a pole because he was looking at some girl's ass. And when he was telling the story, I was like, oh shit, you did that in front of my house. I was sitting on the stoop watching you run into a pole. So
that was my mom. That was my mom you were looking at.
You know, so it was like, holy shit, we've been around each other forever and just didn't know it. You know,
it's like McFly, Back to the Future. He's out on the street and you took him in. Mom, I hit another one.
How did you link up with the Pennywise guys? And was that your first like big gig or?
No, really. I grew up in South Bay, grew up in Hermosa. Known of those guys a long time. Actually, I used to live right across the street from Fletcher. And, you know, we'd be at the same kegger parties and, you know, whatnot. And those guys would occasionally play here and there. They weren't really, you know, they were just kind of the local thing there for a while. And they built their following pretty well and ended up getting signed with not Theologian, but Epitaph. And I, at the time, started a big warehouse with my brother, who was kind of a hairspray rocker. And he just wanted a place where they could showcase and, you know, look at themselves in the mirror across from the stage. So it was a big place. It was like, I don't know, 300 by 100 square feet, you know, 20-foot ceilings. And we built out this whole big old stage and everything in there. We started having gigs in there. Well, they were, you know, all ages, 12 freaking kegs. And, you know, we just went for it, totally went for it. Place was called Velocity Studios, and Pennywise actually shot their second video ever in there. But I had known those guys prior to, you know, like the new lineup with Jimmy and Byron used to be just Fletcher and Jason and this guy named Bob Hank playing drums. So they were a three-piece back then, and I used to actually play in a side project with a friend of mine and Hank from Pennywise. So we used to, you know, play the same gigs. I've known each other for years. And after I started tacking, you know, for a while, they needed somebody, but this was like talking almost 10 years later, you know, after they had already kind of established themselves and everything.
Yeah.
And I was available and said, you know, hey, yeah, let's go and do it. And I did a few with Jimmy when he was still on board. And this was the last tour I did was when Zoli came out and replaced Jimmy for that for the album that they did prior to the last one, with Zoli singing from what was Zoli from? Do you remember what band Zoli was in?
I don't know. Yeah,
I forget. I totally forget. But
did you guys see that video, the movie that they made? It was like a documentary on life on the road the Pennywise guys did. It's really, really well done. It's super worth watching.
Was that the one they just did recently, or
a couple years? It wasn't that recent, maybe 2-3 years ago. And
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen it all.
Really well done. It's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you have a conflict. You have the singer who wants to stay at home with his kids. He wants to see his daughters grow up. And then you have the rest of the band saying, well, hey, man, if you're not with us, we can't make any money.
Right.
It's an interesting thing to talk about. It's true. You know, I want to see my kids. I don't care. Well, what about us? You know, what are we supposed to do? So it's a really well put out. You know, what is your, what's the end game? What is the mix where you can keep everybody happy? Because he should be able to go to the kids' graduation and stuff.
Sure.
Like that. So it's interesting. All right, I got one for you, Corey. My buddy here, his name's Darren Paltrowitz, and he asked me to ask you a question. So he's a fan of the annual Michael Dorf benefit concert in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Every year they perform a cover of a big artist. He said usually at Carnegie Hall. One year was The Who, one year was Led Zeppelin. My buddy saw the dress rehearsal of the Zeppelin one, and he said, I don't think they ever played this one before. Was it your first onstage attempt? And if so, it was funny because I saw in another interview you had done, you said that with Zeppelin, though, you loved them. You're like, I could never sound like that.
Right. I was like, my voice is high, and that's a fact. It's not that high, but so we did Whole Lot of Love, and it was fun to do. It's like a dream come true to do that song, but. You know, I don't particularly, it's a lot to do, and it's a timing thing, and it can get really, really busy, and we like to they like to be very busy with what they do. So
We both share that.
So just watching them go nuts, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? I thought my ass. What's supposed to be doing? So
it's cool. Had you guys rehearsed it a few times, or you kind of just went for it?
We rehearsed a lot that day, and we have a habit of, like, as Steve and Dennis will tell you, sound check are the longest rehearsals ever known to man.
That was going to be my next question. I was going to bring it up so I toured with STP. With STP, they never sound check unless it's being recorded for something. Otherwise, right. Never, ever.
Yeah. We sit there and rehearse and sound check for hours. It's a typical. They get there most of the time. The band gets there an hour before sound check starts, and are usually there for another hour after the sound check starts.
We literally had to put on there the band could not arrive before a certain time because Doug or Vernon and Doug would get there even before Will for drums. They would get there and noodle for hours, and Dennis couldn't get the rig set up. He's trying to set something up, and they're sitting there playing. So we literally on the day sheets it says band not allowed until.
Love it.
So we typically have 3-hour rehearsals during sound check every day. So it's not like we don't rehearse. We've not gone into a rehearsal studio in over 10 years. But every time a sound check is a chance to, like, either we're going to try something new or we're going to find the place that we fucked up and try to fix whatever that was, and try to fix something with somebody's rig is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So they spend a great deal of time just in their shit.
Vernon and Doug never have the same setup every night. They change it every night, as Dennis will attest to. They literally.
Right. Sometimes it's
it was fun.
Sometimes
I think that's the most guitar pedals I've ever had to deal with in my life in one actual band. I think I counted 83 between him and Doug.
The drummer has pedals. Will has pedals too. There's pedals all across the stage.
Oh yeah.
Will's got 20 of his own.
Yeah. Everybody has a pedal except me.
So how did you two guys get the gig with Living Color, Steven? How did you get into the fold?
A mutual friend, Chris Musgrave, called me and said, "Hey man, I heard that Corey and them are looking. Was I available?" And I said, "Yeah." And not only that, when I was a kid, when I first got into the business, I was working as a local crew guy on the Stones Color show in Atlanta, and actually met Corey that night. And we, it was out of nowhere. And then I ended up picking a few more shows up, working with some of the crew on that, and sort of got my first taste of being on the bus on that, and met the guys. None of us remember it, but it was, I remember it just because I was shell shocked at that age.
Right.
But, so from my standpoint, it was like, hey, Chris called and said, "Are you available?" I said, "Yeah." I talked to Mike and Andrew, and then they put me in touch with Corey and Doug and Vernon, and we all did a conversation. And I think that was like a week or 2 weeks before the show, or before the first show. And I called up Dennis and a guy named Doug Short and said, "Hey, you guys free?" And everybody was like, "Yeah." So it was what we did on the last run for Shade. It was 30 dates.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was,
yeah. A month and a half, 2 months, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a fun run. And then, but I don't think I've ever really gone out and shopped for a gig. It's always been, "Hey, are you available?" or a friend calling and referring. And
this was a referral to me too, as well, through a friend of mine, Tyler, that put me in touch with Steven.
Yep. Because Tyler couldn't do it. Tyler, a guy named Chad Bird, monitor engineer, Mike Posner, and several others. He had been with Tyler, and then Tyler put me in touch with Dennis, because he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I had known Dougie for a while by that point from Van Halen and some other shows.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so
loudest monitors in the business.
So bucket list stuff. Jesus Christ Superstar is a big influence for you. I saw this, and then you got to perform it on stage. I know you like acting, but when you're singing with living color, is there any acting involved, or what's the difference with like a super? You have a lot more dialogue to remember, or whatever. What's the big difference from stage to?
The guitar player can turn down on a Broadway show.
Like Dennis just said, the loudest stage volume and monitor mix in the world of living color.
You have hearing loss. You guys. So there's a guy named Batty, and Batty was with what was he? He was with Alice Cooper for like 20 years, Iron Maiden, and he was Lemmy's tech for Motorhead. So he had to go in to get his hearing tested. And the fellow's like, so what is it you do for a living? And he's like, do you mind if I tell you after? Really funny.
Yeah, I don't think Doug has the greatest hearing either, but because there's times when I was standing like 5 feet from him, I'd be, oh yeah, hey Doug. Hey Doug. Doug. He's like, hey, what? Maybe he was just focused on what he was doing.
I'm really bad. I'm terrible. I was yelling at the mailman
so
today.
Loud.
I was screaming at the mailman thinking he couldn't hear me because I can't hear. And then when he got here after, I was like, well, dude, you're deafer than me. He goes, I heard you. I just didn't give a shit. And I'm like, I do that too. I do that too. So I'm going to ask you about Platoon, if that's cool. And I did meet Oliver Stone once. I got this like screenwriting award thing, and he was there, and he was pretty entertaining. He was just so gacked out, I think, when I met him. Honestly, I don't think I even knew that. But I on all the accounts I'm reading, being on that set was, I mean, a fucking nightmare.
He's a dick. He's a dick.
That's pretty much what I read. Yeah, really hard. Did you have to go through the boot camp and stuff like?
I did, because I was the last person to be cast.
All right.
Everybody else had been cast, and a friend of mine actually got the part that I played, and then decided not to do it. It was being shot in the Philippines, and there was a coup happening out there, and he could have done much better going to LA and just doing pilot season. So he didn't do it. So long story short, I got called on a Monday and I was in the Philippines by Wednesday, which means they called me on a Monday. I was on a plane on a Tuesday. I was in the Philippines on Wednesday. So everybody else had been there for like a week and a half. And so they had a chance to really acclimate themselves to where they were. They're on the other side of the world. They got over the jet lag, everything. I was in a hotel for a day, and then they said, all right, you're taking off. You're going to leave your clothes, leave all your gear, leave everything. You're going into the woods for the next 2.5 weeks.
You're like, why didn't I go to pilot season?
Right. He said, and I got there, and this ragtag group of people that looked like they just woke up, and nobody, and honestly, no one you'd recognize, not even Willem Dafoe and Tom Berenger. You knew Tom Berenger sort of from like The Big Chill or something like that. Maybe he was in, you knew his face, but you didn't know who he was. And I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't know who Depp was. I didn't know who Sheen was. I didn't know who any of them were. And we're all just standing around. All of a sudden, we had a drill sergeant just started barking orders at us. And we were thrown in the middle of it, like stripping down the M16s. And I was an A gunner, which means I helped the guy who had the M60 machine gun. That was my job. Like, I wasn't an actor. I was Private Francis, Harrison, whatever his name was. That's who I was. I wasn't. Corey got stripped away immediately, and I met Stone in the lobby of the hotel the day I got there, and that was until I saw him at the first day of shooting, or like a week. He came to check out boot and then left, but didn't speak to any of us. He didn't speak to me, and then he left. and I didn't see him again until his first day of shooting. And we went right out of boot into shooting. Like, we were dirty, we smelled funny, we looked like hell. And they started cameras rolling. So it was immersive in that way. But so couple all this stuff, this training we had on us, all these things that we had to do. And then we had, you know, the script was kind of dense for everybody. And there's certain scenes where you may not be saying anything, but your background, and you have to be you have to be there. There was a point when I got so exhausted, I fell asleep during takes. Like, if you listen to that whole scene with Berenger and Sheen fighting each other, you can hear me snoring.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it. Do you guys feel, Steven and Dennis, do you sometimes feel that you wish Oliver Stone was your boss instead of the guys from Living Color?
Guys from Living Color were great, man. But hey, the other part of that, Corey, when we were talking about Platoon on the Bus, you said that they had offered you another role in another war movie right after that, and you're like, fuck no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I got home, and 2 weeks later, it's like they're shooting Hamburger Hill. It's going back into the Philippines. You'll be there for 30 weeks. Get the fuck out of here. You know?
You need to be invited to some birthday parties immediately.
What I knew about was they were leaving in the middle of monsoon season, which means it was going to be raining and miserable and muddy for like 4 months. Like, I'm not going back there. I was there in the middle of the summer, and it was 130 degrees in the shade at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Christ,
imagine that with rain, and it's muddy and it's humid and it's nasty. Oh God.
That sounds like the Download Festival.
Yeah. It's like,
Oh, right.
yeah, it was horrible. I knew it was going to be horrible. I'm not going back. back.
Joel, as opposed to like not having Oliver Stone, now Corey and the guys were great. I mean, it was very,
yeah, I love
chill camp. It's not,
yeah,
you know, they're great.
I gotta say that was,
that's about it.
By far one of my favorite tours to go on, as far as like musicianship, and I was blown away staying on the side of the stage every day. I mean, these guys are tops. I mean, in my book, there's not too many people that can kick ass like that live every night, and I'm really surprised that their markets aren't like triple what they are.
They're one of one. There's one band that's Living Color. There's one of one. There is not another band out there that has got one of the top 5 guitarists in the world, top 5 drummers, top 2 jazz drummers in the world, and top 5 bass players in the world, with Corey Glover, who's can sing better, just can do anything. I mean,
a bit of magic.
Yeah, Corey, you're a monster, dude.
Yeah.
Are you feeling good about yourself yet? You want to?
No.
Missing out. Do you still have your outfit from the body glove outfit from Saturday Night Live?
Actually, I don't. Do I? No, I don't. I don't have any of that shit. I think, I had
I wanted Steven to put it on for the next tour. That's where I was going with it.
I think we asked him to do that.
I have a few pieces, but none of the special ones. I had a storage unit that I forgot I had at one point, and they sold it. They sold all my shit. So it's like a bunch of that stuff was in there.
Could you imagine seeing that on Storage Wars?
I'm sorry.
The owner of Body Glove's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Could you see that on Storage Wars?
You want a yellow?
Yeah, if he can get me one, yeah, I'd love one.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. He'd be totally psyched. I swear.
There's one. It was what's his name? The Star Trek. He has the eyes that go across. Reading Rainbow.
Yeah, he plays Geordi.
Thank you, LeVar Burton. So he too. He had a storage locker, and he lost like all his Star Trek stuff, everything.
Oh.
He just, I don't know what happened. I think he did buy some of it back. I just kind of a nightmare,
Yeah.
Anyway, on to more positive things. So
it had more storage unit than anything else, so I really don't care.
I think, for me, like, I'm less materialistic than I was at one point. I don't need all this stuff. And I'm an art dealer is why I ask. I sell a lot of memorabilia, but most of the stuff is like, but every now and then things that are They mean something. They don't have to be big, important things either. So
Right.
as long as it is to you. Is it true that in the mid 90s that one of the conditions of the band keeping their record deal was recording a cover of Sunshine of Your Love per their label, and everyone hated singing it or playing
But
it?
Sunshine of Your Love?
Yeah.
It wasn't a stipulation to keep our record deal at all. You know, it was they were trying to get us in the soundtracks, and we did it for True Lies, this Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. It was great. Isn't that's the one with Roseanne, Tom Arnold, right?
I'm Arnold.
He was so
And-
funny in that movie.
And Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah.
I was in the Keys living then, and I was working at Monroe County Fire, and I was one of the safety divers when they blew up the bridge.
Oh, that's cool.
Get out of here.
Yeah. There was So they asked us to be, to do this song, and we're like, yeah, but we want to do it our own way. We don't want to do it like everybody else does it. And we use a lot of electronics, and we tried to make it as different as we possibly could. But doing that song was like, yeah, okay. It's we were trying not to feel like it was like yet another one of those covers that every band does.
Okay, I got a question. So I've been asking almost everybody. So I was going to start a podcast, and I was going to talk to roadies and people. And my friend's fifth grader, this little girl, she said, I think you should ask everybody, when did they first feel famous? So bear in mind, we're coming from a fifth grader's head. So to be famous, you don't need to be a celebrity. You don't need to feel famous. It could be something where you felt good about yourself. But what's an event where you smiled ear to ear and you thought, this is me. This is cool. What's the first event that comes to mind?
First, for me, it was the first time I walked into Madison Square Garden with a show. And I walked in and went, holy shit. That was the cool, oh my God. Yeah, okay.
What was the show?
Jesus.
So it's the place. It's not the show. That's interesting, man.
Yeah, no, it was more walking in. It was with Posner, but it was.
Were you thinking about Andrew Dice Clay?
Hickory dickory dock. That was the first time I walked in there. I was like, okay, wow. Oh, this is cool.
This is big. This is big. That's neat.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never felt famous. I'm supposed to be invisible. That's my job.
Yeah, I didn't feel famous for it. I just felt that was like a cool pinnacle of, what do I need to be at?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah, I think I tried really hard to be as normal as I possibly could. I remember one time we were I would get on the subway and take the train back home, and you would notice when people. Hold on a second, my phone is ringing. I cannot take it. I was taking the subway, and when people sort of get that look in their eye, like, I know that face. I know. And you slink down, you put your hat down. And mind you, I had like hair down to my ass. So I had this.
I'd say it wasn't like you were hiding what you were with your dreads and the helicopter.
Well, I had a big Rasta crown that I stuffed all my hair into and put that on. And I looked like some little, like, at the time, like a teenage Rastafarian, But they look at my face and they go,
It's cool. What about so you talk about your brother and your sister being big influences, I guess, on your life is probably the best way to put it. So when do you think they first look like, damn, little brother's kicking some ass?
Pretty early on, because before the Living Color thing, I was acting. I had a few commercials under my belt. I was doing some stuff. And they were like, they were intrigued by what I was doing, because it's like, I wasn't really advertising or anything. It was just, things were happening. And then their friends would go, you know what your brother's doing right now, don't you? You know, or they'd say, you know, I saw your brother on television. Or my parents would my friends and my parents would say that. So I saw Corey on TV. What's he doing? What is that exactly that he's doing? It looks like he's running around in his underwear. What's the matter with him? And it wasn't until, like, for me personally, like, we did Shea Stadium with the Stones.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this is Shea Stadium. And you know, I used to go into Shea Stadium through the regular way because, you know, to watch the Mets lose. And I was going through the back, and, you know, I backstage and this particular place. And we had played a bunch of stadiums before we got to New York, but this was Shea Stadium. This was home. I was in Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like when we met over by the Brooklyn Bowl, Corey, you're like, I used to roller skate. I used to skateboard, not roller skate, skateboard right next door at that abandoned building, skip school. And
I skipped school and skate. Right across the street from the Brooklyn Bowl is what's now the Waith Hotel. It's like it's some high-end 5-star hotel. It used to be an abandoned building, and I used to shred and get on and do a bunch of and risk my life in this abandoned building, skating around.
You toured with Guns too, right?
And yeah, but now it's such a high-end spot now. But yeah, it used to just be like a little skate rack running around there.
That's funny. Things change. I went down to Sunset recently, Sunset Boulevard in LA, and I was just floored.
Yeah.
So the Kottonmouth Kings were a band called the Humble Gods. And they were, no, I think it was the Kottonmouth Kings were the house band, but one of the two was a house band there. And so Lou, who you worked for, Lou Dogs, the drummer of this band, the Kottonmouth Kings, it was amazing. I was 16 years old, and we would go put we'd put all the signs up on the street, and they'd give us beer, and then they knew girls. We were the street team, yeah. And then Lou, as things got, he married a girl who doesn't matter her name, but we have the same last name and we have the same birthday. And he'd be like, go talk to her about it. And then he was amazing, man. It was crazy how many women this guy would meet. But working for the Kottonmouth Kings must have been tough, dude. I mean, they weren't kidding around. The quantity of weed was insane.
They meant it, man. They meant it. They meant every minute of it. You know, I got hooked up with Kottonmouth because I played in Too Rude with Robbie, who was one of the Kottonmouth guys, Robbie Rogers, who was Dog Boy in their thing. I used to play in his band Too Rude. I'd finished a tour basically with my old punk rock band Cheater. The day I got home, he called me and said, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, I just got home from a 3-month tour. I'm relaxing. I'm fucking tired. And he goes, can you learn 18 songs and go on tour tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I can. So boom, out on the road the next day, learned 18 songs in like a couple days. And we toured with Kottonmouth as their opener for about 6 months. And when we got home, of course, the next run, we weren't on it, but I was home and we weren't really doing anything with Too Rude. And they, their manager at the time, a cat named Ray Amico, who's a dear friend of mine, asked me, you know, because we met on that tour and we got to be really good friends. He goes, well, I know you're home. What are you doing? Why don't you come out and be a tech? You know? And I was like, what's a tech? You know, what do I do? He goes, well, you know, set this up, plug that in, make sure no one comes on the stage, and don't drink all the fucking beer backstage. Basically, you know, I was like, okay, I can do that. You know.
So you failed at the last part, right?
Yeah, I definitely did. So what was it like when you toured with Guns N' Roses, Corey? Was Axl and everybody cool to you, or did you kind of keep your own way?
We did one show with them, and that was on the Stones. That was in the LA Coliseum.
Okay.
And we got into a little thing with them. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. And it was funny. You know, we had they had a song at that time called "One in a Million," and it said something about it used a lot of derogatory terms. And we had mentioned something. Vernon had said something about it in particular. So at the show, we were all backstage. And I don't know if this is because he was not in any kind of mental state to understand, but he ran up to Muzzy, who does not look like Vernon, and said, "I heard you been talking about me. I don't like the way you've been talking about me." It's like, and Muzzy said, "Well, maybe we should sit down and figure out what's going on, and we can talk about it." It's like, look, I don't like you talking about me. I don't know what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. I'm talking about what I want to talk about. And he stormed off. And Muzzy came back and said, "Axl Rose just cursed me out. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on." And why is Axl Rose cursing me out? I really was looking forward to seeing this. And, you know, because we were the opening act, and then it was us, then Guns N' Roses, and then the Stones, we went on first, and it's like, and it was like, you know, Vernon said, you know, there's a lot of things have been said over the past couple of days on the stage, but we're here to tell you, we're here, we're not going anywhere. And, you know, despite what you're talking about, you don't know me. So we went on to play, and so there was a little bit of beef between, and it was weird because we would subsequently see other people in the band afterwards, and they go like, "Dude, that's not us. That was him. He was doing, you know, he was on that shit at the time. I don't know what was wrong with him then, but it wasn't about you guys. We love you guys, everything." I have long conversations with Slash. It's like, yeah, that's just the way he is. And we seem to have had a beef with Axl Rose. I don't know why.
That's not hard.
He fired me. I feel you. Yeah. And I was in the recording studio, and I don't know why I picked up the phone, and I don't know why I was at Nate's, and I picked up the phone, and I'm like, I don't know why I picked up the phone, and I couldn't hear. I can't hear shit. So I finally, there's a fella named Stuart who had been with the Guns N' Roses camp for a long time, and he's a genius. He's a great guy. And so he comes in and he goes, "What the fuck do you pick up the phone for?" I'm like, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, that was Axl." And he said, "Fire that fucking idiot." And I looked around like, that's gotta be me, because I'm definitely the dumbest guy here. So they're like, "Okay, so this is how it works. Go home. Nobody knows who you are. So stay home for the night. Come back tomorrow. He won't even know who got fired." Cool. Okay.
Brad.
So I went home, and then the next day I came back, and nobody knew. I don't know. Funny, stupid stuff. Anyhow, well, all right, guys. I really appreciate you all taking time to hang. And
I got to give one Corey story. So we're doing.
Please, yeah, you can go as long as you want. Yeah, we're
the Food and Wine Festival at Disney, Corey.
Oh, geez.
Whole night, so Disney's this, they do who shot you and all this stuff, and they're like, "You can't cuss, Corey. You cannot cuss," and they're all paranoid about it. Corey's like, "I didn't cuss last year. I'm not going to cuss this year." So sound check at Disney is at 2 a.m. So we're there at 2 a.m. and Corey's in the back with the microphone going, "Fuck you, Disney. I can come."
I have a thing with this. I had an issue with Disney years ago. Long time before this, when they still had Downtown Disney. I was on a tour with my own solo band doing stuff for my first solo record. It's called Hymns. And we had a song that was the single at the time called "Do You First, Then Do Myself," which was about fucking. Plain and simple, that's what the song was. Disney had a problem with us doing that. So could you not do that song?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's the single. We can't do it. He says, "Well," they say, "Well, can you cut out one of these lines?" It's like, no, we can't cut out this line. There's a line.
They're like the doors of Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah. So they said, "Did you cut this line out?" There's like, this line is called this. Like, there's a line that has pussy in it, and it's really Pussy Willow. So there's like, "Could you cut that out?" It's like, no, because it's not what you think it is. It's Pussy Willow, not the genitals. It's double entendre. Idiots. So he said, "All right,
go back to your palace, your castle. What is it? The Snow White Castle. Go back.
Right. Just go back inside." So they said, "Go ahead, play the song, but don't make a big deal out of it."
Don't make a big deal.
So that opened the door for you to do what, Corey? How big?
Boring. Be dull. It's gonna make your career one day.
Yeah. Right.
So we waited to play, make it the very last song to play.
Did you do what? 3 sets a day, 30 minutes a day for 2 days?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You should have told him, I'll make it like Dumbo. That was kind of a dull movie.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
go.
And not racist. And so we're starting the song, and I pick up a microphone stand, and I say, "This is I've been told that this is a song that is inappropriate for people here, down here at Disney, but you wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for songs like this." And I proceeded to tear up this microphone stand and cut huge divots out of this stage with this microphone stand and made it a punk rock show. I was happy. Fuck off, everybody.
Punk has its place.
So they got the powers that be saw what I did, and I cut great big divots out of the stage they use for dancers, and if a dancer gets hurt on one of these stages, it's our responsibility. You'll never play in Disney again.
That's great.
Fuck, I won't.
20 years later.
That was the same weekend that Dennis took his JBL or whatever, his Bluetooth speaker, and we were staying at the place at Animal Kingdom or whatever it was, and he started playing giraffe mating calls, and they came running to his room.
What did your parents do for a living, Corey?
My mother was a elementary school English teacher, and my father was a tax assessor for the city of New York. So
That's funny. So Angelo Moore, his parents too, they were English teachers.
yeah, English teacher.
His dad was a speech pathologist.
Yes, I know. I met his dad back in the day. I met both his parents.
His dad was a great guy. Angelo has his issues here and there, to be honest, but it's stupid. Well, I shouldn't say it's stupid. It's his dad, but his dad was a lovely guy who actually played. Though I never saw him play, he played. I think it was sax, but he wouldn't. He would just laugh and he wouldn't do it. But when I toured for a bit with Fishbone, his dad went to every show.
Yeah.
And, he would cruise around, and Angelo still has his dad's Blazer in the driveway that he drove to every show, and he went and saw us at every show, man.
Yeah, he was a good guy. I loved him.
I was such a good guy. Mr. Moore, Mr. Moore.
Cats. I just did some shows with him. In fact, my singer from my punk rock band, Mark Phillips, is now their guitar player. That took the slot for
Is that Spacey? I don't know, I might be out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because Spacey was gone, and what's his name was there for a minute, and I think he left. The original
Fish. I know. So my friend just did a show with Fish a couple nights ago.
Well, Fish is still playing. Still Fish and Norwood is still there. Chris Dad is there. Walter's there, and Jones. God, I can't think of his name now. The original guitar player, he left, and then they had somebody else come in there, and then somebody else come in there, and so they're going through it, but they're sounding amazing. Last time I saw them, they sounded great, and it's good to see them out there doing it. We're doing some shows with them also this summer as well.
I love Fishbone. I mean, it helps, but he got me into music. He's the reason why I cared about music. It was funny because I didn't like most of their stuff, and I'm like literally in 6th grade or something, and I'm having a hard time, and then I come and I'm like, I like one, I was all excited, and it was this guy called Curtis Mayfield, and he just looked at me and he goes, "Well, it was Freddie's dad," and he goes, "That's not us." I'm like, "Well, who is it?" He goes, "You know what? I'll tell you." And I went out immediately and I got some Curtis Mayfield stuff. And it just, because my parents weren't really big music listeners. And so it opened up this whole world of stuff. And then the Chili Peppers would come hang out in the garage, man. He'd have all these people come by. And he was a kind of an interesting guy to grow up across the street from. Let's put it that way.
I can only imagine.
So did your mom make you read a lot of literature when you were younger? Did you have school away from school?
Yeah, I had to read, my father told me reading is delicious. Like, I don't understand what that means, but I'll do it anyway.
Yes, Dad.
And so, I did a lot of reading. I did my brother and sister are like over 10 years older than I am. So I was sort of like this accident, and my parents were older, and they were, coming into retirement age by the time I was a teenager. So they had a lot of stories to tell me. They had a lot of stuff to just sort of like pass on. And my brother and sister had a lot of stuff to pass on. So my musical knowledge came from them and my brother and sister. So I got a lot of jazz knowledge from my parents, and then I
read Bitches Brew was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, Bitches Brew was the one record that everybody in the family could wrap their minds around, because.
So what was the record you liked and the rest of the family? Was it Bad Brains, or what was it that you liked and the rest? Come on.
I played a lot of Bad Brains. I played what was that? I was playing, like, I had that raw tape from that Bad Brain, that yellow tape that I wore out several times, that they didn't understand what I was doing or why I was doing it. And then I play some Broadway thing. Then I play something like from Bye Bye Birdie. And they were like, how are you mixing the two?
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing.
What books do you guys remember having an influence? It's like, I'm a big John Steinbeck fan. I love it.
Yeah. Grapes of Wrath was a big book for me.
Oh, so good.
And so was Catcher in the Rye, and so was,
I couldn't get into Catcher in the Rye. I don't know. I couldn't.
When my mother asked me to read it, and said to read it because it is the teenage mind at work. It was like, I didn't get it because I was a teenager at the time. I said, this book sucks. And then when I was 30, I read it again. I was like, oh shit, I get it. I was that guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool that the teachers have such an influence on you. The Grapes of Wrath was a biggie for me. I had an African-American teacher teaching English, and she made us read both Kaffir Boy and Black Boy. And
I went to the guy who wrote Kaffir Boy.
What a fucking writer. I mean, you want to talk about understanding the language. Oh.
Yeah. Good writer, but asshole. Yeah.
Oh, really? So that was good. Yeah. So Angelo, it was Sly. He's like, Sly Stone was a fucking asshole. I'm like, okay, sorry. He goes, no, man. He goes, for me, it was a big deal. I was a big, it's Sly Stone. And I went up to him like, hey, he was an asshole. I'm like, I'm sorry to hear it,
Yep. Yeah.
That guy had a tough life too. And then he actually followed it up. Everybody has their off days, man. Everybody has their off days. So.
But he was consistently sort of like that. But, whatever.
So all right. Well, any other stories to make fun of Corey or everything? Are you gonna hire these guys ever again? Are you going back out or
yeah?
They've got to run this summer with Everclear and Hoobastank. I was already booked, and I think you're going to share Eric with Hoobastank, right?
Yes.
PM.
Eric Harris.
I liked Everclear. I thought their music was great. In the late 90s, when I was doing the STP stuff, they had a lot of these late 90s bands coming through, and I always thought they stood out. They were, I think he's an exceptional artist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be. He was one. The singer guy. I can't think of his name. He's an asshole. He's an asshole. But the guy went through so much inner turmoil and so much shit. That's where it's not fair. Maybe that this guy was having a lot of.
I had a moment with Mike Patton one day where
I can tell you a great Mike Patton story. What do you got?
Yeah, he was. Me and Serge went off to blaze a doobie out in the parking lot. When we came back, Serge was talking to somebody, so I came back and sat with Mike, and he's, oh, where'd you guys go? And I went, we went out and smoked a joint. He goes, I hate pot smokers. Like, and he made me feel really bad. I felt like a total jerk. And then
you'd kick your flip flops off and give him a shoe in the butt.
Yeah, and Serge came back and sat down, and he goes, oh, where'd you guys go? And Serge's like, oh, we went to smoke pot. And he goes, oh, cool. Like that. And I was like, what a fucking jerk.
I was doing this
the
movie.
Next time I met him, he was the nicest guy in the world. I was like, what, bipolar? I don't know, maybe.
Well, maybe. I was doing this movie, and I'd cast a bunch of music guys in it. I I was going to have all the guys from Kottonmouth Kings waiting in line at the Mart because Jonathan Davis was the liquor store clerk.
Oh,
So I was just loading it up with all the music guys I could. And it actually ended up being Eddie from Blessed Unions of Soul. He was the guy waiting in line because the Kottonmouth Kings
wow.
Saints car broke down on the 405 and none of them made it. But I wanted Mike Patton.
Right.
And his agent's like, you know what? I'll make you a deal. If you can find him, I'll let him be in your movie. And so I was like calling, hey, do you know where Mike Patton is? And they're like, what? So he's not in the movie. I never did find him. Never did find him. What was your jobs as a kid, Corey?
I'm
going somewhere with this, by the way.
I worked in a supermarket for a little while. I was a paper boy for a bit when I was really young.
I could see Corey on a bike flinging papers at people, not to their houses.
Yeah, basically. I was.
10 points. 10 points.
What else did I do? Here's one. I worked for Clairol as a hair color consultant. Yeah.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Or something? Where was that?
I saw an ad in the paper that's like they needed telemarketers. They need people to work the phones, and I went in and they asked what I know about hair color. It's like what I know about when I color my own hair. I don't know. I use your products. So
did you have dreads?
No, I had my hair wasn't dreaded at that point, but you know. But I was coloring it. I was coloring it all kinds of colors back then too. So, so then I worked there for like 2.5, 3 years, and I stopped working there because I got Platoon.
Wow!
Oh, no way!
Right.
Was it a tough decision?
You gave them a 1.5 day notice.
Right.
Airplane.
And what was deep was like I went there. I was gone for 3 months, and they were like, "Don't worry about it. We'll hold your job for you. When you come back, you'll be fine." And I got back and I was like, "No, we can't hold the job for you. Sorry, I gotta go. Bye."
Wow.
Yeah, rough.
And I'm glad we're all going back to work this summer. You know, you've got Sublime. I've got my first show this weekend, Kevin McKnight, and then Corey, you guys are back out on the road. So that's
absolutely
we're back at work is the best part. So
wait to get back out there.
Yeah. I can't wait to feel a live audience and the feeling you get when you walk out there. I'm not even on stage, but you can just feel the energy of the crowd and the band and everybody jonesing and you know, just making it together and feeding off each other is what's been missing on all the live internet stuff. It just.
What have you guys been doing to like through the time here? What have you been working on?
I got a bunch of other projects I'm working on. I got this band we're trying to put out this record called Disciples of Verity. It's a real sort of metal project that I'm doing.
I know a tour manager for that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could probably use some folks. It's me and Corey Pierce from
wow.
Playing drums and a bunch of Jersey bands, Second Skin, a bunch of guys from Second Skin. It's a really good project. I'm also doing something with Mike Orlando from Adrenaline Mob, and that's going to be amazing. I can't wait to do that. I cannot wait for that to happen. That's going to be the best project ever. Like, because I know guitar players, and Mike Orlando is by far one of the most amazing guitar players I've ever seen, heard, and worked with in my life. And he's not an asshole. So
damn, that's
I like
a pretty big claim there. But
no kidding.
Do you think you'd ever start a band with your brother, Corey?
No.
Family's hard.
Yeah, it's you know.
Road family's one thing. Family's another thing on the road. That's taking it to a whole nother level.
You know, you can't curse your brother out like you can curse your people in a band. I can't
Exactly.
You know, particularly because he's older than I am, and
Brothers start fighting.
It's actually sort of interesting though. So like you said another thing, you know, but Jackson 5 was an influence, but I mean, come on, how could they not be an influence for anybody? I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. Love him. Jackson. But I wonder how that would have worked with all them. I mean, maybe Dad was such a reign and there was nobody cursing anybody out because you did what Dad said. But I wonder how the creativity worked in that band.
Oh, I'm sure they kept it well under wraps, but I have a feeling that there were, behind the scenes, like knockdown, drag out kind of things going on.
Yeah, because you got a lot of fucking brothers, man. There's how many is the Jackson? Five. Okay. But you had to have a lot of fights.
But think about any band where brothers are in it. Oasis, constantly fighting.
Rough. It's just brothers.
The Kinks, always fighting. These and have no compunction and have no
Credence.
Problem. Right. Have no problem with punching somebody in the face. No problem. None.
Did you ever get into fist fights with the guys on Living Color?
No, not yet. But give it time.
They ain't over yet. The Rolling Stones would beat each other up every now and then, I think.
Yeah.
You and Vernon haven't gotten that far yet.
Not yet, but give it. Like I said, wait, just wait.
You're gonna start throwing your walkers at each other during sound check. All right. Well, hope everybody's on to better things this evening. Actually, we're on the weekend, so I hope we have a good weekend. Hope your tour and your dates go really, really good, Steven. And for all you guys too, I hope the tours kick ass, Corey. I'm sure they will.
I appreciate you calling in, Corey, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. For you guys, anytime.
Great to see you, man.
It's good chatting with you. Appreciate it.
Good to meet you, Joe. And we'll be doing. We'll be seeing each other. I know we will.
Yeah, I know. I'll catch you when we do that festival. I'll make sure we get in touch.
Yes, sir.
We'll meet up on the road this summer.
All right, now.
Love you guys.
All right, guys.
You guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Respect.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Hey, thanks for watching Party Like a Rockstar. If you're not already subscribed to the Facebook or YouTube channels, do it. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The handle is Party of Stars. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.